Hey, welcome back to the Easy Hard versus Hard podcast, a podcast dedicated to helping you find the work that actually matters in your life. Today, we are going to talk about self-evaluation and self-assessment. So this falls into the easy hard versus hard method after we've understood what easy hard is, what we understood what hard could potentially be. And then after we incorporate the three pillars of self-leadership, which are self-motivation, self-determination, and self-discipline, which we discussed in previous episodes. So the self-evaluation and self-assessment is where you're going to start doing and going after your hard work. So these are going to kind of be in and out of the process, probably through the duration. And no matter how many hard things you take on, I encourage you to incorporate both of these into your life because both of them have value and they're both slightly different. So a lot of people will say evaluation assessment, it's the kind of the same thing, but we're going to talk a little bit about the differences and how they apply to this method. So let's first start with self-evaluation. So self-evaluation is simply looking back. It's kind of a check of where you were and what you've been doing. You're going to look at your past actions, your past behaviors, the way you responded to things. And this is going to really come into play and be very valuable if you've already identified some of the easy hards, because you can go and see patterns and, and actions that you've taken that have put you in this hard, whether you were too focused on what others wanted, things like that. But also, you can it's not just a whole negative. It's not just, hey, look at all the things I did wrong to get into easy hard, because this is a new concept and it's a new way of thinking. So if you embrace it, know that there's also going to be some positives that come from your self-evaluation. So a couple questions you can ask yourself is, first is like, what did I do well? And this is very important because not only does it set you up for your hard, because a lot of the things we do when we're chasing the dreams of others, we still do well. And some of these will serve us, and they've built skills, knowledges, and abilities that we can then use going forward. So this is a really good time to take stock of what you have done well in the past and decide at this point which ones you want to keep, like where you want to, if you need more work on them, if they work for you. They always say, don't fix something that's not broken. So this is really what this is. So what did I do well? Really take stock of that. And be gentle with yourself and be kind, because even if you were in the easy hard, there's a lot of really good things that you did during that period of time that you can then bring forward. So this is one part of self-evaluation. The other one to look at is where did I struggle? Look at those obstacles and roadblocks that you might have hit along the way. And maybe those can teach you something for going forward. And maybe then you can start understanding why you struggled, because it wasn't something you wanted to do. We talked about like self-motivation before, how some people don't have it, or self-discipline. Well, maybe that was a struggle for you. And maybe it's simply the struggle was just that your heart wasn't in it. You weren't really focused on that activity or what you were going after. But it also could have been some things that you might have, need improvement on, and things that you need to incorporate in your hard, or just simply things that you want to change. We can all be doing everything right, but sometimes you find more efficiencies, effectiveness, ways to do things differently. So this would be a good time to just take stock in that. As we're talking about doing things differently, that's also part of the self-evaluation. So this is the time to say, okay, I was here. This is how I've been operating the past year, month, weeks, whatever. And what do I want to do differently? This could be in the type of work that you're going after. This could be in the manner you want to go after. A lot of people say it's, you can reinvent yourself. Well, moving from easy hard to hard is a perfect opportunity to start reinventing yourself, and then becoming the person who you probably truly are, but you've been hiding it from others. You've been wearing the mask. Time to take the mask off. What are you going to do differently? How are you going to show up differently? How are you going to perform your work differently? How are you going to spend your time and energy going forward? All of this goes into the self-evaluation. Again, this is just a time to take stock of where you're at and where you want to go. It's not to spend too much time. It's certainly not to start judging and get self-doubt and anxiety about where you're going, because that's the absolute opposite of what we're trying to accomplish here. We're really trying to get our mindset right, so then we can lay out a blueprint of the type of actions, the type of work that we're going to go after. So self-evaluation, my warning here is don't go too deep. Don't dive into all the negatives that you've done before. Sure, acknowledge the struggles, acknowledge things you want to change, but just acknowledge them, because the real work is going on later. And that's going to come with the self assessment piece. And then further, once you start taking actions, you're going to keep going through these cycles all the time. So I really want to encourage everyone, just don't do one self-evaluation. Evaluate yourself often. Some people evaluate themselves every day, every week, every month. That's up to you. You decide what rhythm works for you, what gives you the most feedback and the most direction that you can act on, and make it your own and play around with it. Some people like to write something down every day. Journaling is very popular these days. Just when you do it, make sure that it's effective to you, it's supporting where you want to go, and it's not creating any kind of self-doubt or any other blockers for you going forward. Okay, so that's a little bit of summary on self-evaluation. Self-assessment is where it's really starting to get real. This isn't about looking back. This is about looking forward. So this is taking everything you got in your self-evaluation and what am I going to do about it? How am I going to make the changes? What needs to be put in place? Systems, processes, thoughts, behaviors, actions, you name it. The list could be numerous, but at the same time, it's always looking forward. This isn't a time where you say, I used to, or this or that. No, it's I'm going to, or this is the next step I'm going to take in my journey. So the self-assessment is really a valuable tool. And this is the one you're going to probably use the most throughout the process, is because you're going to always keep going back to assess where you're at. Okay. And again, it's looking forward. It's breaking down your knowledge, skills, and abilities, habits, everything that you want going forward. The time for, what was evaluation, assessments. Boom, I'm here today. I want to go this way. All right. So some areas that we can talk about, some questions we can ask ourselves during the self-assessment phase is, what areas do you want to improve on? Obviously, if you're going to go chase after a hard heart after being caught in the easy heart, there could be several. So write them all down, any ones that you can think of at that moment. And then once you assess those, look at what knowledge, skills, and abilities you already have. Because I think most people will find that a lot of the things that they think they need to work on, they've already got down. So this is the time to just say, okay, I'm here, but I want to be here. And then if there is like a difference in where you're at to where you want to be, this is the time to start writing those down and breaking them into smaller chunks that you can work on. Things you can do in a day, week, month, very short time frames, and then keep reassessing along the way to see if you're building those knowledge, skills, and ability. This is where some measurement, and we'll talk about monitoring and measuring later on. Those are further chapters in the book, but this is the information that you'll really use in those phases. Another area is, where do you need growth? We talked last week about self-discipline and the myth that knowledge and skills and abilities are, you don't have them. Well, this is where you're going to start writing those down and find out what they are. Again, this is that whole mindset. I don't know it now. I can't do this yet. Once you start getting to that type of thinking, the self-assessment phase will allow you to formulate where you want to go and then figure out how to be it, or how to achieve it. So if you need to, gain a new skill, gain new knowledge, this is the time, and you write it down. And the act of writing it down, I think Tony Robbins says, if you write it, you invite it, is very important, because you write it down, then you have a record of it. So if you are going to keep a journal or a log, this is what I would do. I would write my self-assessment, what areas am I going to improve? Where do I need growth? Write those things down, because in a month, 2 months, half a year, you can go back and look, and then you can also look at where you're going and do a self-assessment based on where you were on, today and 6 months from now. So that's another tip there. One of the biggest parts of self-assessment goes to, what changes are you going to have to make to go after your hard. And this one might be the one that takes more time, more thought, because when you shift your mindset from the approval and the accolades that you've been seeking to what you truly want to do, some changes are going to have to be made. I am not one of those person that says burn the boats, burn the bridges. Certainly not that. But you may want to take stock of the people you hang around, the activities that you do, even the foods that you eat, the amount of sleep that you get, the exercise. This is a time to say, hey, what changes do I need to make? Because if we don't make some changes, the chances of us falling back to the easy hard are probably pretty high. So these changes are also a lot like our thinking. Be very positive about them and break them down into small chunks. There's a thing called SMART goals. One of them says, something that's achievable. So don't go using the old analogy, like if you're gonna run and you want to run a 4-minute mile, but you can only run a 13-minute mile. Don't make your initial thing, I want to change that I can run 8-minute miles. I mean, make it very doable and very thought out about the way you can go. And a lot of times we don't know this, right? So there's also the idea of 1% improvement every day. If you start chasing and start making changes and incorporating new habits, behaviors, thoughts in your life, you're going to know day to day if you're doing it or not. You can write down one of the 2 type changes you want to make a day, start incorporating it in your life, and then just take stock of it whenever you do your self-assessment. And you'll start noticing difference, right? You'll start, some people like to check it off on a board or on a piece of paper or whatever method works for you, do it, but make sure that it's very small and it's very doable chunks. Like I said, if we shoot too high, we make our goal too big, we're going to get upset. We're going to feel disappointed, and it's just going to bring us back to doing the easy hard, because that's a comfort zone, right? At least it's a comfort zone as far as productivity or perceived productivity. Some of these changes that you're going to have to make may take a long time, right? When I was 354 pounds, obviously I had to make significant changes in the way I spent my time, energy, and effort to start losing weight. The more that I did it, I saw incremental progress, and the incremental progress was far greater than a number on the scale or the amount of miles I could run or the weights I could lift, because it was more about the process. And that's what the self-assessment, that's what the whole easy, hard is all about. Once you get into the process of changing and seeking that work, the rest of it will take care of itself. So don't beat yourself up on the details. This is certainly not a time to start putting measurements down, numbers on the page, things that you're doing. Just say, hey, these are what I need to do to prepare myself for the hard work again. During the self-assessment phase, and really any phase, so I don't really just want to call it out for this, but anytime, be honest with yourself. If you don't say what you want, nobody will. And if you lie to yourself, as we've talked about, you're going to set up more boundaries, more blockers, more just things that you're going to have to overcome later. So don't lie to yourself. If you cannot do something today, if you don't want to do something today, put it off. Save your energy, save your mental cognitive abilities for when you're ready. It's important to take note of it, but if you're not willing to do the work today, then don't start the work today. And that's true with any process, right? We can learn about the easy hard versus hard. We can get excited about it. We can get motivated. This goes into the whole emotional thing. But if we lie to ourselves, we say, oh, I'm going to start this. I'm going to go after this. I'm going to do these things. I'm going to improve these skills, these thoughts, these behaviors. And we don't do them. It's just going to become harder and harder and harder. So I want to encourage you, if you're not ready, don't start. You can do a self-assessment. You can do the self-evaluation, but don't start doing the work until you're ready. And when you're ready, like I said, chunk it up. Make sure it's very small, because you don't want to overwhelm yourself. And you do want to celebrate these small wins and victories. And you're not going to get them if you have this ideal that's probably going to take you 5-6 months, a couple years to achieve. It's just going to frustrate you. And you're going to, again, I've seen it so many times, you're going to fall back into easy hard, or you're going to stop pursuing the work you want. And then you're going to have to start all over. Each time it's going to be worse. So I know I'm kind of beating that to the core, but be honest with yourself. In everything you do, be honest with yourself and love yourself, and know that this is going to take some time. Rome wasn't built in a day, nor will these changes, nor will finding your hard. And it may take several iterations. It may take several tries. But the fact that you're trying, the fact that you're thinking about it and planning to make the changes alone is a step forward. So that alone is progress. That is something you should celebrate. And I encourage you to really embrace that. But it will only come from honesty. All right. So some of the pitfalls, again, I talked about it before. A lot of people think, they think too much. I saw a guy the other day post about writing a book, like, the best books are the ones that are underthought or underthinking or something like that to that effect. And wow, what a great way to put it. We always talk about don't overthink, but maybe we should underthink, right? You need to underthink what you're going to do, because the more you think, the less you do. I love to say that taking some action is better than taking no action, because 1x, 2x of some action is much greater than 10x of zero action, right? So the more we think about something, the more we plan, the more we evaluate, the more we assess, it's not taking us forward. So don't spend too much time in there, because the more time you spend thinking about it and planning, your mind's going to be like, oh, this seems difficult. This is going to be hard. And I know I talk about the cognitive function quite a bit, but it's really the key. I think I've shared with you all before that I limit myself to 30 minutes of thinking a day. And that's 30 minutes of what I'm going to do for that day. What are my goals? What do I want to accomplish? Because any more than that, I find myself 30 minutes becomes an hour becomes 2 hours, 4 hours. Before I know it, I'm procrastinating. I'm doing other things. I never get into the work I'm doing. So make your decision when you do this on a daily basis. Make your decision, go after it, and then you can assess later, right? If you're in a daily assessor, then assess that night. Say, hey, this worked, this didn't work, bring it in. And maybe in the first few iterations of this, maybe you should assess more than you do later. Again, I don't encourage you to overthink this, as I've said, but take stock in it, because the adjustments are going to be probably greater in the beginning. You're going to have that bell curve effect where you're going to see a lot of things, and that's just going to prepare you for the last 20%, right? 100% improvement. Everyone always says the last 20 sometimes is the hardest. So if you prepare appropriately in the beginning, it'll help you in the future. So again, the self-evaluation, self-assessment must result in action. If it doesn't result in action, then you're just doing a thinking exercise. You're just writing more things down that you're not going to do. They're going to make it harder for you. You're just going to stall, right? And that's where I see so many people stalling, is because they think too much. And I wish we could all be more like animals, where there's really no thinking. It's just action. I mean, a lot of times that's harmful for the animals and it doesn't work out. And because we're human beings and we do have the capability of thought, do it, but use it appropriately. Don't overthink, underthink when it comes to action, and just start moving down the road. Practical applications for this. We talked about this kind of along the way, but just spend a few minutes and start doing an evaluation, right? If you've identified the hard that you want to go after, and which I think once we practice that self-honesty and we strip ourselves and we understand and really start looking at what we've been doing for others, you're going to find it. So just take a few minutes, today, tomorrow, and really start thinking about, hey, this is the hard I want to do. Because once you identify that, then you go into self-evaluation and the self-assessment. Again, one of the big components of this is, are you following your vision, or is it the vision of someone else? Again, if it's for someone else, no matter how much self-evaluation, self-assessment action you take, you're just going to be moving yourself more into the easy hard and not getting into the hard. So really take stock. Is this my vision? Is this my goals? Are these my aspirations? Is this the work that actually matters to me? Another great thing for taking early action during these phases is write down what's draining your energy and what takes away your excitement. And if something particularly lights you up, take note of it, because any change that you make, you've got to be your biggest cheerleader, because it's going to be hard. It's going to be difficult. No matter how easy the change may seem to you, it's doing something different. It's something that you've programmed into your body, your mind, your thinking for years, maybe less, but it's programmed, and you're going to have to kind of reprogram it. So finding those things that really light you up, and also those things that really drain you, maybe you avoid those in the beginning, or maybe you make that as part of your you're part of improvement, things that you have to improve upon if you think they're important to your progress, but really take notes of that. And then if there are areas in your life that you perennially overthink, identify those as well and avoid those. If it's something that really freezes you up or causes you anxiety, the more and more you think about it, I think now is the time in these early stages to just get it out of the way. Either clear the deck, put it as something later on, but don't think about it. Observe yourself when these feelings come up and maybe try to identify why they come up. Maybe it's leading you to exactly what you want to do. Maybe that's why you overthink it. Maybe this is your heart hard, or it's something that you want to do for yourself, or you've told yourself for years, but you keep thinking about it, and then you're just like, I can't do it. I can't do it. It's too hard. Remember, maybe you can't do it now, but you just can't do it yet. It's not a judgment. It's all about self-improvement, and we can improve every single day. It's not about being the best version of yourself, because if you're the best, there is no room for improvement. Be better version of yourself every single day. So stop overthinking. I know I've said it so much. You're like, hey, just stop talking about overthinking, but it's that critical. It's one of the most critical things, I believe, to the easy, hard versus hard implementation. All right, as we said before, write them down. If you're not a writer, you can type them, voice memo, whatever. Just get it in record. And if you do have an accountability partner or a spouse or someone that you want to help you along the way, now might be a good time to tell them some of these things, and not for them to pass judgment, but just say, hey, I'm telling you this because this is what I'm going to do, and I'm going to check in with you routinely, because some of us, like I said, we don't believe in ourselves enough. So as you start doing these actions and start taking, accountability and evaluation and learn how to do it that works for you, you're going to start having more belief in yourself. But in the beginning, write it down, because that's a contract with yourself, or tell someone else if that's what you need to do. You know how you think and how you best position yourself to make these changes. Use it. Now's not the time to draw into the whole, as we talked about self-discipline last week. It can be lonely if you want it to be lonely, but it doesn't have to be lonely. This is where, you bring in as many people as you need, whatever you need to move it forward. So just make sure you write it down, say it out loud. Like I said, give it to an accountability partner. All right. In closing, I want to say that both of these steps are not about perfection, especially not in the early goal lines, and probably never, because perfect is the enemy of good enough, right? And making the initial steps is what you're talking about now. It's moving yourself out of where you were to where you're going. So don't become too detail oriented. Let your heart, in this case, let your emotions, your initial emotions response be your North Star. Follow that vector for a while, and then you can start getting into eaches and refine it every time or as you go along. But now is not the time to have the perfect plan. Like, a lot of people love you to write these 1 year, 3 year, 5 year plans. Maybe for you, it's a 1 week plan or a 1 day plan. And if that's how you do it, make it your own. Make this process your own, because I guarantee you, whatever you've done in the past and now you've identified as easy, hard, and you have the lack of productivity, maybe lack of meaning in life, you have the depression and anxiety, it's probably because you overplanned or overthought. Now's not the time for it. Really, I know it sounds stupid, or simple, but now is the time to take baby steps. It's get in tune with what you want. I know you're excited. You could be excited about this and you want to make massive changes or whatever, but I can tell you from experience and through other people I've coached and observed, massive changes lead to disappointment. So please, please, please take this time and baby steps. Don't be a perfectionist. And in a month or two after you've been going through a few of these cycles, you're going to see exactly what I'm talking about, and you're going to then adapt. And then maybe they get bigger. You can plan a little bit more going forward, but initially just do something, because the more you plan, the more you try to be perfect, the harder it's going to be to do anything. And again, if I could leave you with one thing that comes out of self-evaluation and self-assessments, is go do something. Nike had it so right with their slogan, just do it. I think that's the most simple, most effective, most truthful slogan I've ever heard. The only thing I would add to that is just do it every day, or just do it consistently, because doing and doing it often are the keys to everything. So I know you can do it. I know you can come through and start using evaluation and assessment to get yourself going forward. The next chapter that we're going to discuss in this series will be self-monitoring. This goes to measuring and monitoring and metrics and all that stuff. So you can really start after you lay out your plan and start doing it for a while, you can start really refining it. And this is where, again, not perfection, but improvements can be made in what you're doing, how you're thinking, how you're acting. So that'll be forthcoming. All right. So I know this was a lot and they're very, very similar, but I know you can do it. What I'll do, if anyone's interested, drop me a DM or send me an email and I'll send you kind of a summary. I can also send you the chapter where I write about this in the book in more detail to help you along the way. And always I'm available to answer any questions that you may have, because I want to make sure that you fully understand this and, are equipped with the tools to go out there and do something with this information. If this meant something to you and you know of someone who could benefit from this talk, please share them the link, share them the podcast. And if you like this and you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe. That way you can get notifications when things are coming out. And again, feel free to follow me on all the social platforms. Everything's either easy hard versus hard. And I'm on all of them now. So I appreciate your support on those if you're so inclined. I appreciate your time. As always, I'm Bobby Shelton. And until next time, keep chasing your hard work and find the work that actually matters to you.